Today, we are going to be trying a Dynasty startup mock draft using the Mock Draft Simulator Draft Wizard tool on Fantasy Pros. I can't wait to get started. So without further ado, here we go. So if you haven't used this tool before, it's pretty cool. And let me zoom in a little bit so you guys can actually see this here. So it's a mock draft simulator tool on Fantasy Pros. And you can actually sync the settings from your league. So you can choose Yahoo, Sleeper, ESPN. So you can sync your league. We're not going to do that today. It's not going to matter, but I chose Sleeper. So we're going to do a Dynasty startup, all players, a snake draft, 12 teams. We're going to randomize my position in 3, 2, and 1. Going to be drafting out of the 9 hole. It's going to be a super flex or 2 quarterbacks. We're going to 2 starting quarterbacks, 2 running backs, 3 wide receivers, a tight end, and 2 flex with I just put 8 bench spots. We could do less, but 18 feels like a good startup draft number for a mock draft. But let me know what you think of the comments for future videos. And then you can even select which positions to value highly. So I pick quarterback as high and wide receiver is to value high because that's what positions I value highly in a dynasty startup. So it's going to be tough for me to draft against this room. Basically, I created a room that is probably going to draft a lot like me, so it's going to make it a lot tougher. And then the default cheat sheet, I'm just going to pick the most accurate experts, and we're going to see how this goes. This is kind of an impromptu thing. Thought it'd be a cool video. Let me know what you think. Like and subscribe if you like it and want more of it. So without further ado, let's kick the draft off. And let's go to the draft board here. And as you can see, these picks are going to be, they're going to fly pretty quick. And it's going to be me versus the mock draft simulator. So we have all the quarterbacks coming off the board: Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Jayden Daniels, Jalen Hurts, exactly how you'd expect. Joe Burrow, Patrick Mahomes, the 2 elite wide receivers. So we have a choice. We could go quarterback here, or we could go wide receiver. And I kind of want to figure out what it's like to build a team around Malik Nabers. So I'm just going to pick Malik Nabers. And spoiler alert, I was on the South Harmon AMA with Adam, and he basically convinced me that Malik Nabers should be the wide receiver 1 in Dynasty. And Malik Nabers is my wide receiver 1 in Dynasty. Let me know what you think of that in the comments. So after I take Malik Nabers, CJ Stroud, Justin Herbert, CeeDee Lamb, Caleb Williams, Bo Nix, and Brian Thomas Jr. come off the board. So we could just completely punt quarterback in a super flex league, at least in the first 2 rounds. We have Bijan and Jahmyr Gibbs, Amon-Ra St. Brown available to us. I think that's maybe the direction that I want to go. And I just want to scroll down here to make sure. Yeah, there's a chance potentially that, a Brock Purdy or another quarterback, like, it might not be a sexy option, but Trevor Lawrence or Dak Prescott is probably going to be there a little bit later. So let's go in that direction. Let's take Gibbs and start off with Malik Nabers and Jahmyr Gibbs. And as you can see, Bijan goes the next pick. Love, St. Brown, Kyler Murray, some more quarterbacks coming off the board. J.J. McCarthy going at the 211 is kind of a surprise. I actually don't mind it when those kinds of things happen, because you never know what can happen in a dynasty startup. So the fact that we have some picks that are a little bit out there is completely fine to me. And this honestly would be pretty much like the way that I configure this draft is making it extremely difficult on me, because you can see the run of wide receivers here: Nico Collins, Lab McConkey, Rashee Rice going in round 3 ahead of JSN and Garrett Wilson. Very spicy. And it's almost like they watch our videos on the Dynasty Roundtable, because we are extremely high on Rashee Rice. So gosh, it feels criminal. Notice that, Trevor Lawrence is still here for quarterback, Jared Goff. I think it feels wrong that either JSN or Brock Bowers is still here. And Brock Bowers, to me, feels like the right pick. I know we have Saquon there. I'm not, Saquon's coming off a year where he had just an insane workload, and I'm very skeptical if he can repeat that RB1 season. Not too many RB1s have done it really since McCaffrey. I mean, he's come the closest. So I'm going to go Brock Bowers here. And I'm going to be the first one to take a tight end. So we're going to see how lucky we got. So Garrett Wilson, Saquon, JSN, Devon Achane, Jonathan Taylor, Breece Hall come off the board. And now, I mean, we're young in this build so far, but we kind of need to lock in a quarterback at some point. Trey McBride is still there. We in hindsight, maybe we should have taken JSN, or JSN probably should have been the pick, considering, we have the two elite options at tight end. But, and you can redo your pick here as well. I swear this is not an ad for the Draft Wizard. I just think this is kind of a cool tool. So let's look here. I mean, Travis Hunter is there. That would be interesting. Teteroa McMillan would help us with the build. But we're kind of playing with fire if we continue to push quarterback like this. TreVeyon Henderson would be an interesting pick. If we go, this is the first real challenge of the draft here, in my opinion. Quarterback would probably be the safest way to play this. I don't really love the idea of taking like a T. Higgins. Bucky Irving would be interesting. Honestly, I kind of wish now in hindsight that we would have taken JSN and then we get Trey McBride. But again, you don't get that. You don't get to hit the redo button, even though we could right here in an actual fantasy draft. So you know what? We're going to lean into this build. I'm just going to take Travis Hunter. I'm just going to do it. And we're going to bet that he is an elite option. And we get kind of lucky. I mean, 3 quarterbacks come off the board. I think if we push it, although Rome Odunze is there, so we may push it a little bit further. So we could really lean into this productive struggle-ish kind of build with Rome Odunze. And actually, let me scroll down here a little bit. Ooh, yeah. Okay. I feel kind of good about some of the other quarterback options. Let's take Rome and see what happens. And cross our fingers that we get a quarterback. Okay. Good. All right. So no quarterbacks come off the board. Kind of regretting our decision, honestly, to go tight end super early, because we have Sam Laporta, Kittle, Hawkinson, a bunch of tight ends. Like, tight ends are just not getting drafted. So I think it's probably between Dak Prescott and Cam Ward here. And then for me, in my Dynasty rankings, there is kind of a drop off, although I don't mind taking a Bryce Young or, so I think we have to get quarterback on the board. And I am going to lean into this build here. You know what? Actually, no. I think Dak Prescott has a lot of good football left in him. So I'm going to take Dak Prescott and lock in a quarterback. And, we're just one pick away from Cam Ward. That would have been sick. So, of course, Cam Ward goes the pick before, and that's a fantastic pick. By, I think I don't even know what these team names are. But, so we have Laporta, a bunch of the tight ends come off the board, and some of the wide receivers that I would have been considering as well. We do only have one running back, but I'm not really concerned about running back too much in a startup, because if you ask me, the running back is the cherry on top of the Dynasty Sunday, and tight end to a certain extent, although we've locked in an elite tight end here. So I don't know. A lot of these teams that are on the back end here of the draft board only have one. So two of them only have one quarterback. So I think we should probably not chance it and take another quarterback here. And I'll go with Bryce Young. I do like if you look at what Bryce Young did, gosh, Emeka Egbuka is still there. Well, and Colston Loveland and Tyler Warren. I know JMO. I'm not a huge JMO guy. I know that's what the pick predictor wants us to take, but I think I'm going to lock in a quarterback and just go with Bryce Young. If you look at what he did towards the back half of the year, it's really impressive. So we have Dak Prescott, Bryce Young as our quarterbacks. No quarterbacks coming off the board. Very surprising to me. So we still have a couple options here, and Emeka Egbuka is still available. That's crazy. I know there's a big logjam there as of right now, but I don't think I can pass up the value of Emeka Egbuka, and we're just gonna continue. And still no quarterbacks coming off the board. Caleb Johnson. Oh man, maybe we should have scrolled down a little bit. Caleb Johnson would have been a nice pick there as well. Although I still don't hate our Emeka Egbuka pick. I'm still fine with it. So we have a lot of quarterbacks here that are still available. As I'll scroll down, we'll recap the draft afterwards. They have a nice Fantasy Pros has a nice way that they recap the draft, and we'll see how good we did according to their experts. So stick around for that. Feels like a good time to just lock down our QB3. So Justin Fields is sitting there, and Justin Fields, honestly, I'm not a huge fan of Justin Fields, but I think at this stage in the game, if we lock in a Justin Fields here, there's a lot of upside and he can help us win right away. So after we took Justin Fields, Tua, Alvin Kamara, Sam Darnold, Brian Robinson, Najee Harris, Travis Etienne, all come off the board. And so now there's a few more quarterbacks available, as well as Kyle Pitts. Isiah Pacheco is still sitting there. That wouldn't be a bad pick. I think he's slated to likely be the starting running back in Kansas City again, based on what they've done in the offseason. So I think, man, there's some value plays here as well. We have our three quarterbacks. I wouldn't necessarily hate taking another one, but I think we're okay there. I think I'm going to take Pacheco. So I took Pacheco, Swift, Javonte Williams, Matthew Golden come off the board, Aaron Jones, Calvin Ridley, Cam Scatabo, Bashul Tootin. So some of the rookie running backs, Jaden Blue taking that high. That's interesting to me. So it comes back to us here, and we still have quarterbacks available. So that's going to be really tempting. Jaxson Dart is still there. I would imagine Tyler Shough is still available. He's likely going to be the starting quarterback this year, although you can argue how good he's going to be. I've been taking a lot of Tyler Shough just based on the value of Tyler Shough and the hopes of flipping him a little bit later on. I think, man, this I think is a good time to take an upside swing, and this is going to be polarizing to some people, but on Anthony Richardson, and I think they're going to hate that pick once we get to the recap. But in the 11th round with some of the other options available, there's a ton of upside. Again, I could have just lit my 11th round pick on fire. I understand that, but there's a lot of upside, and there's with guaranteed starters on the board. Like I said, I think that they're going to hate that pick, and maybe you will hate that pick. I don't know. But that's what we're going with. So we still have quarterbacks on the board, and honestly, I wouldn't mind taking another one in a Superflex league and banking the value a little bit later and just kind of scrolling down here to see some of our options. That's honestly what I think I might do. I know we're a little bit thin at running back with just Pacheco and Gibbs, but I feel like we can kind of stack some quarterback or some running back rather options later with these two quarterback options on the board and Jaxson Dart. I think we go with Jaxson Dart and take some upside here. So after we take Jaxson Dart, Jonnu Smith comes off the board along with Blake Corum, Demario Douglas, Rico Dowdle, some running backs there. Then a run of wide receivers, then a couple more quarterbacks, Ray Davis. I wouldn't mind Jayden Higgins with this pick. Kyle Williams would also be, and we still have starting quarterbacks in a 2-quarterback league. So, I'm not really opposed to a mini quarterback horde in a way, but we do have 5 quarterbacks on the roster. Matthew Stafford staring us in the face. It kind of looks like a good time to take a second tight end. It looks like we may have missed the boat. I guess there are still some good running back options. Jordan Mason, like there's some good value options that we can take a little bit later, but I do think that there is some value in the tight end position. So we do have Brock Bowers, so it's not a pressing need, and there's a lot of options here that I don't mind taking, but Jayden Higgins and Kyle Williams, I think that there's a ton of upside there. So I think Jayden Higgins is going to be my pick. So Rashad Bateman, Matthew Stafford just come off the board. Jordan Mason, I had my eye on him. No tight ends come off the board. I think that's very interesting. So we could wait a little bit. I think I like the idea of waiting on a second tight end. It's not a huge pressing need. I'm honestly tempted to go quarterback again. I'm not sure what's going on here. Russell Wilson still available. Tyler Shough still available. Kyle Williams is a nice player as well. But if this were a real startup, I'm not really concentrated on filling a starting lineup in June, right? If we're doing this startup. So I'm trying to bank as much possible value as I can, and you've seen, I've taken quite a few rookies, Jayden Higgins, Jaxson Dart, Emeka Egbuka, Travis Hunter, along with some younger players as well. So I think I have a good chance at, putting together a pretty competitive team. But, the question is here, do I take a shot on another quarterback with some upside? And I think I'm going to. I think Tyler Shough, as much as I don't really love the prospect, I think he's going to get an opportunity to start right away. And there are some teams in this startup that, only have 2 quarterbacks, or, they have a third quarterback, but their third quarterback is, Aaron Rodgers. So a little bit further on down the line, they may need a quarterback. And if they do, then they're going to come to me potentially for that quarterback. And they're probably going to hate that pick as well. I can't believe Quinn Ewers coming off the board. That's fine with me. And I guess I'm going to get a tight end here that I would have gotten, that I was considering at my last pick. Let me just scroll down here to make sure. Yeah, so it looks like we're going to be a little bit thin at running back. So I'm going to take Jonnu Smith, and he's going to be a nice piece to help me, on the bye weeks where Brock Bowers is not available to us. So I feel pretty good about our tight end room. Now we probably need to start adding some, because we have 5 wide receivers and only 2 running backs. So we should probably look to focus in those areas. So just taking a look at what's on the board, I like Coker. I think he's got a chance to really soak up some targets there. Roschon Johnson's not a terrible pick. And I have some interesting. I've been doing some research for redraft, and it's really interesting. Ben Johnson, when he was the offensive coordinator in 2022, had DeAndre Swift on his roster and basically used him just as a pass catcher, with Jamal Williams having one of the strangest seasons imaginable for a running back, but more on that later. Cedric Tillman would be interesting. Marvin Mims would be interesting, but I think, gosh, Jonathan Brooks, I don't know if will he ever play. I don't know. I think I'm going to take an upside shot on DJ Giddens here, and maybe Roshan makes it back to us. No, he goes the next pick. Of course he does. So we have 2 more picks here to make. So we're probably going to focus on wide receiver and running back. Quentin Johnston. In hindsight, it looks like maybe we should have waited on tight end because the tight ends just continue to fall. I don't know if tight ends would fall this far. Terrence Ferguson would be a nice pick, but again, I think there's we could probably wait. Like if this were a 28 person or a 28 player draft or whatever, or 20, we could wait a little bit because I just feel like there's some real value here. I would be tempted to take, one of these starting tight ends, especially like a Dallas Goedert. But I think I'm going to go Jalen Coker here. I think that there's some upside with that pick. Let's see, kind of blocking the draft board here. Justice Hill, Jake Ferguson, Quentin Johnston. I can't see that. I don't know how to get rid of that either, but we'll review the draft here at the end. Tutu Atwell, common on guy, would have been a nice pick as well. Let's scroll down. I kind of want this to be a running back. Yeah, and I see my guy there. Let me just scroll a little bit further. There's some good options here. I can already tell, like if this were, because a lot of the startups I do are either 28 or 30 rounds. So I can already tell that I would, in this particular build, I would just be picking off running backs. And I'm going to take Jarquez Hunter here. So I get a B, all right, 83 out of 100 for my draft. Mostly, I would say a productive struggle with a tip to, some value by taking just an insane amount of quarterbacks. We took 6 quarterbacks because that's kind of what the draft gave us. So let's view our full analysis here to see what these experts think. So they think I was about middle of the road here in terms of projected standing. So honestly, I don't know exactly. I have to look more into this, but if they think with my team, I'm going to finish 6th this year, I'd say that's pretty good. That means I'm sneaking into the playoffs in a 12-team league, assuming 6 teams make it to the playoffs. So let's see who really liked my team. So this Travis Seal from the Undroppables, 96 out of 100. Pat Fitzmaurice liked my team, 87 out of 100. And then over here, there's some people who just Scott Pianowski just hates my team. Give me a D-, at least, 61 out of 100. At least he gave me a sympathy pass, I suppose. Joe Arico hated my draft, 61 out of 100. So steals and reaches. So it kind of highlights, let's see who I was able to steal. I'm not sure exactly who are these reaches. Maybe, I don't know. Pick analysis. Maybe they wanted me to take Barkley. I don't know. Just kind of team strengths. Let's do this. Team strengths. The quarterback is kind of low. RB2 is low. I'm not honestly, RB2, even in Dynasty, it's like I said before, RB is always kind of the cherry on top of my Dynasty Sunday. I'm not afraid to, obviously I went Jahmyr Gibbs here. Malik Nabers, Travis Hunter, Odunze. So I actually really like this team. when you break it down. And then here's the draft board one more time. So just to recap this one last time: Malik Nabers, Jahmyr Gibbs, Brock Bowers, Travis Hunter, as my voice cracks, Odunze, Dak Prescott, Bryce Young, Emeka Egbuka, Justin Fields, Isiah Pacheco, Anthony Richardson, Jaxson Dart, Jayden Higgins, Tyler Shough, Jonnu Smith, DJ Giddens, Jalen Coker, and Jarquez Hunter. Again, if the draft would have continued, you would have seen me take just an insane amount of running backs later, younger running backs with some upside, maybe some handcuffs. So that's the direction I probably would have gone. And obviously, I was with taking as many quarterbacks as I did, I was just trying to bank some value and potentially make some trades once the startup was over leading into the season. Again, my general philosophy in a dynasty startup is I want to bank as much value as I possibly can. I'm not too worried about filling in starting lineups, but in the startup, I will say I think that this build could be, I could make the playoffs with this team. I feel very strongly like Pacheco could bounce back and be a nice RB2 for me. But I will admit, I don't have a lot of depth at running back, and I don't have a ton of depth at wide receiver because, I'm really banking on Emeka Egbuka. If I'm going to win now, I'm really banking on players like Emeka Egbuka and Jayden Higgins to produce in year one, and maybe that's not likely. But again, let me know what you think of this startup. Let me know what you think of the strategy. Let me know what your preferred strategies are in Dynasty in these startups. And I think that's going to do it for us. Let me know what you think of this video because it's the first time that I've done one of these. So let me know what you think in the comments. And until next time, be good, everybody, and we will see you later.